Welcome to the Saturday Slam and Jam here on the Athletic NBA Daily. With me, as always, is my good friend Alex Speers. And on today's show, we're talking to Yossi Gozlan of the Third Apron podcast and Substack about the CBA and common questions that NBA fans may have about the business side of the NBA. Yossi, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. Excited to be on.
So, how different will the cap space landscape look next summer compared to this summer? And what teams do you think are best positioned to have meaningful cap space? Just because I think some people thought this summer would be a little more interesting and it kind of dried up pretty fast.
Yeah, I would say the story is that a lot of reporters, they sell the upcoming offseason as going to be the biggest ever. And I think in some ways it actually meets those expectations. This one, not so much, depending on your mileage on the Desmond Bane trade, which happened pretty early, Kevin Durant trade. I mean, those were the big ones. I would say that as far as next year, it'll be both a little better, the environment, but probably more of the same. And what I mean by that is, I remember like a year ago around this time, it was pretty known that the offseason we just had was only going to have one cap space team, the Nets, and then maybe a couple other teams like the Pistons or Grizzlies, but that wasn't used in the traditional sense. Um, and then the Bucks just came in out of nowhere to sign Miles Turner. The only free agency move using cap space to sign a player from a different team. So next year, right now, there's going to be more cap space teams. As of now, that could change as we get closer to the offseason, maybe the trade deadline. They got teams like the Lakers, the Clippers, the Nets again, Utah, Washington, and Chicago. Even though they just extended Josh Giddey, they also will still have a lot of cap space next summer. So right now, there seems like there'll be more spending power, but maybe half those teams are like the Nets, Wizards, Jazz. They're probably not going to use cap space to go after free agents. And so on one hand, there's more money to spend. And like the Lakers, Clippers, Bulls are all trying to get better. But then you've got the same thing going on each year ever since COVID, that players are now trending more towards signing extensions ever since the 2023 CBA increased how much players can get in extensions. That has only kept players trending towards extensions. So right now, if you look at the best available players, you'll see some nice names. A lot of them have already come off the board, like Mikal Bridges extended, several Thunder players extended. So more players will probably extend, which means like it's possible the two top free agents available next summer are Austin Reeves and Kobe White. And that's mainly because their extension maximums are so low that it doesn't really make sense for them to extend. So there will be a little more spending power, which should be good for the middle class of players, for players that aren't necessarily like starters, but they're looking to get like mid-level type money. The salary cap's going to go up at least 7% as of now. That's a projection. So that's a pretty healthy rise. So there should be more money. There should be a good amount of money to spend for those middle class of players, but without any like true all-star players becoming available, very possible that a lot of these teams that are trying to be competitive, that are projected to have cap space, might end up just using up their flexibility earlier, maybe around the trade deadline.
So I wanted to ask you about the Celtics because they've been very aggressive this summer, shedding salary, and everyone gets it. You know, Jason Tatum hurt his Achilles, so it seems like it's going to be a gap year. But how easy is it going to be for them to rebuild this roster next summer when Jason Tatum is coming back? Like, are they going to what's going to be available to them with their current roster setup?
So I've written about the Celtics. I wouldn't call it a rebuild. This like little retool they're doing. It shouldn't last too long, maybe no more than 2 years, where they've got two things they're trying to navigate. One is the salary cap aspects. the aprons, the tax, which that's the priority right now. They traded Drew Holiday for Anthony Simon's expiring contract. They traded Kristaps Porzingis for fewer and fewer salaries, and they are out of the second apron, um, which means that they won't have to deal with their 2033 pick being frozen, and you're eliminating the possibility of the pick that already is frozen from maybe dropping to the end of the first round. But they are about like 12 million above the tax, I think. So they went from being like 40 something million above the tax to like 12 million. Like they're on the cusp of being able to get under the tax, and I expect they will. They're not going to be a contender this year. They're not going to win the championship, and it's possible they're even a lottery team, depending how things go. And I think no matter what, they just want to duck the tax, not only this year, but potentially next year. And the reason for that is because this is something that with OKC, you'll probably be familiar with. The Celtics are now repeat taxpayers. They were
Yeah.
taxpayers 3 consecutive seasons. So they hit that criteria of being taxpayers in 3 of the previous 4 seasons. They would pay higher rates if they finish above the luxury tax. So I suspect that they're going to get under the tax this year and the next. So then you're no longer under the tax for those 3 or 4 years. And that actually sets them up to be standard taxpayers for 3 straight seasons. So like this would be like the rest of their decade. Duck the tax 26, duck the tax 27, and then 28, 29, 30, reload your team, go for it, spend as much as you can and it's the penalties will be pretty reasonable. As to what they can do to make the team better, they've got I feel like next year will be somewhat of a tight window for them to do that, where they've got this big trade exception they got from trading Kristaps Porzingis. They could potentially use it to bring in somebody within that amount, like 22 million. Maybe you bring in a new starter there. Obviously, where they fall in the draft will be could be consequential. Maybe they could find a cornerstone if they're a lottery team this year. But also, I think probably maybe trading for cost-effective players on rookie contracts that they see could be a cornerstone for their next great Celtics team. They basically have all their first-round picks going forward, except for one in 2029, and then they can't trade their 2032 right now. So they could make some stuff happen that way. But the goal would be if you want to use that trade exception, you want to make some trades that are still going to want to get below the tax next year. So I think it's going to be somewhat of a slow process. I think it'll take probably 2 years before they finally get those extra pieces, get the depth necessary to put the Celtics back into contender status. But to go along with that, getting out of the repeater tax, so they have a more of a willingness to spend once the team is fully formed.
Right.
Yeah. They have a long way to go. Who'd you even say is their best big man right now?
It's got to be Keita, right?
Boucher?
He's killing. Isn't he crushing it in the Euro?
He
basket?
is. Any Garza heads out there? I mean, I don't know. I mean, they have a long way to go. Once they get everybody back, I'll be very interested because this is clearly not the roster they want. But like you said, you have to be really strategic with this new CBA and how you function, and it makes a lot of sense for them. I like how you laid that out. One more interesting detail of the second apron is the idea of a team's first round pick being frozen and being moved to the end of the first round. How soon are we from seeing a team's picks being moved to the end of the first round and frozen like that?
I think that we are a little bit far from it. I would be surprised if there's any team anytime soon. The only team who's really at risk right now is Cleveland. If they stay over the second apron for 3 years in a row, they're about to enter the first year over the second apron, and I suspect they'll only stay over the second apron for 2 years. Then Donovan Mitchell will have his player option. Maybe he'll opt out. We'll see what happens there. He'll be in his 10th year. Maybe they want to maybe they don't want to bring him back. So if he's going to demand a max contract, then they'll just try to stay below the second apron with the guys they've got. I would guess that the best chance of seeing that happen is with the Thunder. This is something that you and I, Andrew, have talked about, where they're going to enter the second apron potentially next season, 26-27. Maybe they could find a way to delay it by an additional year. So either way, if they're going to remain elite contenders, they're consistently going to the finals, Western Conference Finals, they get another ring, then there's probably going to be more justification to keep spending, stay above the second apron. And that dropped first round pick might not really hurt the Thunder all that much since they have such a huge surplus of picks. Yeah, they don't have any extra picks in the early 2030s, but they still have this surplus of picks. They're gonna get more picks somehow. They'll figure it out. Um, so it would probably be them as long as they remain contenders.
What about the Knicks? Because they added another big contract this summer with the Mikal Bridges deal. So now they've got 4 guys that they're paying big money to. What does their cap future look like as it relates to the second apron?
So they're below the second apron this year, so they still haven't entered it. So they'll probably enter it next year, provided they keep all their guys, the top 5 guys. Then Bridges extension kicks in. Maybe though there could be a way that they're able to um, not stay over it for too long. Because when they got Towns, I projected they'd have like a 4-year window, with the first 2 years really being the window, like the best chance. And this upcoming season is going to be their best chance with all the injuries going on in the East, where these players are right now, their age. They're they're deceptively not young. I believe Bridges and Brunson are both just turned 29. I know one of them at least turned 29. Uh, so this is really the time to win it now. But if they, if things, if they can justify it, maybe they'll stay over the second apron more than 2 years. I would guess they try to keep it at 2 years of this 4-year window. But we'll see. It'll be it'll be a stretch, but by the end of by the end of Towns' contract, he's got a player option. Maybe he'd be willing to do some type of Rudy Gobert extension where he takes a pay cut
Yeah.
for more years. Um, there's stuff they could do, and then that could help. That would probably be mostly to subsidize paying McBride. So then I think they'd still be over the second apron. So I would guess that by the time, like 3 years from now, if it's time for them to decide if they want to stay over the second apron for a third year in a row,
Mhm.
I would think they choose not to. I think there's a good chance that some of their core guys will be out of their primes, and just knowing the nature of the league, they'll probably even have moved some of their top 5 guys by then. So Knicks, I would say less likely than the Thunder.
Yeah, you were right about them turning 29. They are a day apart. The
Oh, okay. That's really cool.
30th and 31st of August. It's Mikal's 1 day older than Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson has the same birthday as Alex and his friend, the L Man. So shout out to the L Man and Jalen Brunson on their birthdays. Okay, let's talk about the Lakers. They are clearly going to plan for the future. They've stated that the goal of building a championship team around Luka. What does their cap future look like, and how soon can we be talking about who the second star is going to be in this post-LeBron era?
So they have what it might be like a 2-year, maybe even 3-year window to capitalize on this flexibility. And like they can have 50 million cap space 2026. If they can't sign someone, they could probably still find a way to get like 50, 60 million in cap space 2027 when Jokic and Giannis have their player options. That seems to be the one of them seems to be the rumored desired dream target. So, and obviously both years would mean, like, if they use their cap space, it doesn't factor in LeBron. He'll either have left or re-sign for much less. So I would say, though, we can definitely look at it over the next 2 years. They'll try to get something done. Um, they're the Lakers. If Giannis and or Jokic are interested in playing with Luka in LA, it'll happen. It would just be like, and the teams of those players wouldn't just let them leave in free agency. They'd probably figure out some type of deal that to get a, and that which means those players will switch teams earlier. Um, I wouldn't anticipate any of that happening, but like those specific players. But either way, I would suspect that whoever the Lakers cash in their flexibility on, it'll probably be through a trade. Maybe they get a player who is going to be an upcoming free agent and eventually would want and makes it clear they'd like to sign there. So I think the big question is if they can't, they can wait and take the risk waiting out on potentially Giannis or Jokic, see if either of those guys ever want to come, or maybe some opportunities come along over the way where okay, maybe this guy he's an all star, he's not like an all NBA guy. Is it worth cashing in our chips now on this player who's like a sure thing who wants to be here? We can get him now. I guess the question who that is, we'll find out as the season develops. So I would, and just knowing the Lakers of it all, I would guess they get somebody within now through next season's trade deadline, the 2027 trade deadline. I would guess they use up their flexibility, trade their extra whatever picks they have to get something done in this 18-month or so timeline I just laid out.
How big of an obstacle is a future Austin Reeves contract to this cap space plan? Like, can they sign him to a reasonable deal and still have space? Or if they did sign him, does it become like a trade only scenario for them to get a star?
So as far as this offseason, they could use about 50 million in cap space and then resign him, going to whatever they want to give him, because he's got that low cap hold. If they resign him and they didn't make their big move, um, let's say they give him something that's like, on the higher end, 35 million a year. I don't think he gets that high, but let's just say that he ends up getting something that high. They could still get to the max contract necessary for a Giannis or
Really?
Jokic just by offloading just by offloading like Jared Vanderbilt, because that they just
Wow.
have they have no long-term money on their books. It's just Luca, and then everybody else like Aiden Smart, they'll have expired. And then just like the guys who recently are on rookie deals like Connect, Bronny, uh the Arrow, like that's kind of it. That's all the money they really have, and then whatever they give Reeves. Yeah, no, it's
Well,
it's very possible.
get your imaginations rolling, Lakers fans, because anything is possible, which is what we learned this season, which is
Yeah, and
just
and I detailed this on Third Apron as well on the Substack. Please subscribe, everyone. You can check it out there. I
yeah.
really got into the nitty gritty with my projections.
Hmm. Okay, so on a podcast earlier this summer, CJ McCollum, he talked about how teams shouldn't be punished for drafting well, suggesting that teams should be able to keep all the players they draft through some new CBA provision that doesn't exist yet. Have you heard or do you have any like favorite solutions for a future CBA that could address something like this? I mean, obviously we're Thunder fans, so we're thinking about this a lot. But there's a lot of
Give us a
teams
good
like this,
solution.
like the Houston Rockets or the Orlando
Yeah.
Magic or
Yeah.
Detroit Pistons. Like, there's a lot of teams in this recent like tank rebuild that have a lot of young players on their team that are about to come up for big contracts.
I absolutely agree that there should be some type of solution because everything that the NBA has done in the past decade plus is to try to disincentivize players like LeBron from joining the Heat, Durant joining the Warriors. They really wanted to prevent stars from switching teams. And I think for the most part, the league and players are in like an acceptable place where that is, as far as player movement, especially since we now rarely see players outright leave their teams. It's usually done through a trade. So at least a team gets somebody back. As I went to summer league this year. I was at a sports business classroom, and uh, just not only there, but just in summer league in general, I think this was the first time I really started to hear people try to brainstorm solutions to this, because I think there's definitely a real uh like cloud of agreement that yeah, something should be modified to help, because now the rules are punishing teams for drafting too well. So what can a solution be? The one I feel like, and this is, how it actually would play out in practice is still needs a lot of more thought, a lot of work. But I think the one that kind of might make the most sense is some type of credit system, something where you can designate players that you drafted. And I know some international leagues do something where the player doesn't count against the cap slash tax, whatever it is. Maybe you can do it where, okay, maybe only counts as this percentage of your cap.
Mhm.
Um, that's one way. And I feel like that might end up, if I had to predict, I think that might be the most sensible way. It's just about how do you make that in practice. A good friend of mine proposed, well, why not just eliminate, how about 30% max for everybody? I think that's kind of a different discussion about, well, maybe should we modify the max contract system, but that might end up kind of factoring into this. Um, but either way, I do think there is, uh, there's starting to be some, at least like, yeah, brainstorming
Yeah,
of
yeah.
something should be done. Something should be done to modify the system a little bit. We can't punish teams for doing such a great job. For like, this is exactly what the NBA wanted. They wanted teams like the Thunder to focus on the draft, and they absolutely crushed it better than any other. Like, it's hard to, it's really hard to compare like better cases in what the Thunder had done in the past 5 years. Oh,
Mhm.
now you know what it's gonna cost like $500 million a year eventually to keep
Yeah.
this team together. Yeah, something should be modified about this.
Yeah, and like you mentioned the Rockets, like if Reed Shepherd pops this year, like that's like another situation like down the road for them. Like they aren't going to be able to keep everybody. That's just going to be the nature of this. Um, the Bucks, Suns, and Grizzlies all use their stretch provision this summer, totaling 223 million in salaries that were waived and stretched, which is just crazy. Because, I read this between 2013 and 2024, the total was 320 million. So we're only like 100 million off from what like this 11-year run was in one summer, which is just seems wild. Is this something that we're going to see more of, or is this like a very specific summer with these wave and stretch provisions?
I think that these these max stretches, that's what I'm calling them, because yeah, they're literally for the Suns and who's the other team?
The
The
Bucks.
the Bucks.
Hmm.
They literally use the stretch provision to the max extent that they could within the salary cap rules. I think that's mostly a result of just decisions that they made in the past. Uh, trading for Lillard, I don't think anyone really predicted it, things to go as poorly as it did, and then for this injury to happen. I think that's mostly like the Blazers' mistake for giving him an extension with 3 years on his contract, giving him a 2-year extension, a max extension with that much time remaining. Uh, because you gotta like, I feel like you gotta get closer to the end of the extension, because uh now Lillard's gonna end up not playing a single game under that 2-year extension. Now the Suns did something similar with Devin Booker. Not saying that's gonna happen the same thing, but trading for Bradley Beal, that was, again, that's the mistake that they're paying for now. Taking in that contract. Again, the Wizards made the mistake giving him that contract, but now the Suns are paying for it. So the question is, are there any teams on the horizon that have made a bunch of really bad mistakes, bringing in a bad contract, signing a bad contract? The only team that really comes to mind are the Sixers.
Yeah.
Last year they went on a spending spree. They gave Joel Embiid a 3-year max extension that's going to kick in next year. They're gonna they gave Paul George his max contract, uh, and we don't we're not even certain how those guys are going to look this year. I would guess there's a greater than 50% chance that over the next 2 years, one of those guys ends up getting stretched, and it could end up being a max stretch sort of situation with the Sixers. Um, and then this kind of goes back to what I was saying in our last previous discussion about why not do 30% max for everybody, because I think we're starting to see 35% max. It kind of feels understood that unless you are a top 5 player, like one of the perennial first team All NBA guys, in my opinion, I don't feel any other type of player is really worth that amount, that 35% max. And with Beal, with Lillard, that's what those teams got burned on. Those contracts not working out and eating, and now they got to eat it up. They got to pay these guys not to play for them.
Okay, Yossi. This is a new segment called Yossi Explains It All. And basically, I was on Wikipedia last night trying to come up with cap questions, and we probably have some listeners who maybe are like vaguely familiar with the cap. They hear some of these terms. I thought it'd be nice just to go through of them, have you explain them. So, for instance, could you explain the over 38 rule and how that affects a potential Rockets extension with Kevin Durant?
So I'll try to explain this one as simply as possible because this one's actually pretty. The actual full extent of this rule is pretty complicated. Even I don't truly understand it because, like Kevin Durant, basically the over 38 rule, it doesn't prohibit a guy like him who's 37, 38 from signing an extension, more than a 3-year extension that takes him beyond his age 38 season. That's what the rule basically does. Which includes the current year. So uh, he can only really add 2 years. The rule doesn't really prohibit him from only adding 2 years, but it does something where, okay, let's say you want to give him like 4 more years, then the money's actually kind of like spread out even more in the future. It's really wacky. And it's called deferred money, and teams don't want to deal with that. Like, okay, you want to give this guy more than an extension, a bigger extension. Well, the money's gonna extend into even years beyond that. So that's why you never see any extension for those older players beyond the limitations. So it's just like a mechanism that disincentivizes older players like Kevin Durant from uh, being on a contract that's greater than 3 years.
Okay.
That's
That
basically the gist of it.
that's almost sound. I was just shout out to Brett Coleman. He's a NFL YouTube guy, but he made a really long video about the NFL cap and how deferred payments are like the big way that teams get around. Like it's why the Eagles have just like stacked their roster, and we don't talk about that a lot. And I never made that connection until you just said the deferred money thing with the over 38 rule. But that is kind of what it is. You're just like deferring money, stretching out as long as possible so you can get these older guys in. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Yossi.
Yeah, that's if the NBA ever delves into that, starts adding the deferred money, my brain's gonna explode. I'll figure it out, but like, yeah.
Could you explain what it means for a team when one of their restricted free agents, like Cam Thomas or potentially Jonathan Kuminga, picks up the qualifying offer? Can they still be traded that season? When they enter unrestricted free agency, does their original team have any leg up on other teams in terms of what they can offer?
So the first part, once you pick up your qualifying offer, that amount, it's a set amount based on the rookie scale. So Cam Thomas picked it up. He now has veto rights in a trade for the whole year. The main reason is because since it's a 1-year deal, whenever a player with bird rights sign, it's a 1-year deal, they get veto rights because the NBA doesn't want teams signing players to big 1-year deals just for the purpose of trading them. So if Cam Thomas were to get traded, he would lose his bird rights. He would have non-bird rights. And which would limit how much his new team could resign him to. I don't think that's like as bigger an issue for him than it would be for Kaminga and the Warriors, because Jonathan Kaminga's got this $8 million qualifying offer, and he reportedly has like a 2-year, $45 million deal on the table, but it requires him to give up his veto rights in a trade. Um, and for him, that's pretty, he would want to keep them. They're pretty valuable because no matter what, if he gets traded, yeah, he loses his bird rights. But if he takes that deal and he's making like $21 million, that's like high enough where the non-bird rights can get his next contract. That's something, roughly that in that range. Like the contract's already high enough, so losing the bird rights isn't an issue. Uh, I guess the big question is like, is Kaminga really gonna give up that much guaranteed money to accept this qualifying offer? The history of players accepting their qualifying offers and like the type of money they get after, they're like it's rarely a case where they get that money back. And it would be really bad for the Warriors because with the Nets, it's like Cam Thomas, he doesn't have that much trade value. Like there wasn't much interest in him around the league. If he were to walk next summer as an unrestricted free agent, I don't think that would really bother them, especially since they have a lot of new pieces in the backcourt to work on. With the Warriors, it's pretty obvious that everything they're doing with Kaminga's situation has the intent of they want to bring him back so they could trade him later, because I think the optics of their draft of the past 5 years, selecting James Wiseman and then getting nothing for him, I don't think they want to repeat that with Kaminga. They want to get a little something for him. Uh, so and he's aware that that's what the intent of this whole situation is. So if he accepts his qualifying offer, that would destroy the Warriors' chance of getting something good, something for him. I would nuke his trade value. He keeps his veto rights, and an interested team's not going to give up that much for him because, well, guess what? That new team won't be able to pay him market value. Um, so, and then what was the second part of your question?
Just if when they get to unrestricted,
Yeah.
would the Warriors have a leg up on anyone?
Yes. Yeah, those. So if Kaminga picks it up, he finishes the year with the Warriors, he would keep his bird rights. So then there's still kind of a small chance of the Warriors being able to get something for him through sign and trade. And then he can still get paid whether he re-signs with the Warriors or gets signed and traded. The bird rights would still be there. So that's the other big question. Like if he's going to pick up his player option, is he really prepared to like spend it in the entire another year with the Warriors potentially buried behind the starters? Is that a risk worth taking ahead of unrestricted free agency? Okay, maybe there's some more cap space teams. Maybe we'll get some clarity on the Kawhi situation, and the Clippers will need a wing. Uh, yeah, it's a lot of risk, I think, for the Kaminga to take that qualifying offer, in my opinion. Um, Even if he'd really want to hurt the Warriors more than he values his like immediate financial situation for him to take it.
Okay. Next one. Could you explain the second round pick exception rule that was introduced in the new CBA and how that has changed the second round of the draft?
Uh, so the second round pick exception, just a normal like signing exception, just like the mid level, just applies to second round picks. If you if it basically adds a rookie scale to second round picks, where if you could sign them to a 3-year deal at a certain set amount or a 4-year deal at a also pretty similar set amount, and they would have team options at the end. This rule was mainly added as a safeguard against some teams making some pretty questionable decisions with the way they were signing their draft picks because back before this rule, if a team wanted to sign a player, a second round pick to a multi-year deal, so a deal above 2 years, you had to use either cap space if you had it, or a portion of your mid-level exception. So teams couldn't really ever use the full mid-level exception if they had some like a high second round pick that they wanted to give a multi-year deal to. Uh, a big example of this would be the Lakers when they didn't give they would use their entire mid level exception on veterans. They would give Austin Reeves a 2-year deal. He made it to restricted free agency early, and there was question that they might lose him because another team might overpay him on this what do they call it, there's some toxic type contract. I forgot what it's
A
called.
poison pill.
I think a poison pill applies to something else, but the Gilbert Arenas one,
The Gilbert
Arenas
Arenas, yeah.
provision, where like there's like a spike in the third or fourth year that didn't end up happening. Actually worked out well for the Lakers. Uh, they got him because he's on a nice contract right now. So and there's other instances where a team only had a player on a 2-year deal, and that may have backfired on them. So that's mostly a safeguard where, okay, now you can just give your second round pick a 3 or 4-year deal easily. You don't have to worry about them, uh, over having to pay them earlier. You can keep them on a third year at that minimum amount. As far as how it's affected the second round, I'm not sure if it really has. Maybe it has a little bit because a lot of the second round pick selections, a lot of them are kind of like handshake agreements. Like, okay, we'll take you here if you're willing to take this type of contract. But I think mostly two ways have influenced those type of decisions. Maybe for the later ends, where okay, we'll take you 50th, but you got to take a two-way. So maybe it's still early in this new CBA. Maybe that has influence where certain players might go um, at the top of the second round. Like I know what's Rasheer Fleming. Usually, the top of the second round, you get above the rookie minimum. The Hornets gave Kalkbrenner and Sion James above the minimum. They were able to do that, but then Rasheer Fleming was a 31st pick. Suns gave him the rookie minimum, which is unusual for the 31st pick. So maybe there was some type of agreement. Hey, like if he really wanted to be with the Suns, and the Suns said, okay, but you got to take this minimum amount. So maybe that had to do with it. I guess we'll find out over time.
I need to know your thoughts on this. Everybody's talking about it. Pablo Torre put out a podcast about everything that's going on with the Clippers and Kawhi. If you want to hear more about it, we released an episode on Thursday afternoon that has Dave DeFore and Pablo in part 1, and then with Sam Amick and Dave in part 2. But let's say that what I think is probably going to happen now is like they're going to be found guilty of something very bad. And let's say that they get hammered similar to what the Wolves were back in the days of Joe Smith in the early 2000s. What explain like what that would do to the Clippers moving forward, and like how bad this is for them as a franchise.
I had a Sam Quinn on my podcast on Tuesday. We got into like the actual hypotheticals, like what if stuff happened. First, we're pretty much convinced that unless there is that quote unquote smoking gun, that this is going to drag into the season, in which case, whatever potential penalties happen probably won't be until next year.
Yeah,
at the earliest.
I think that's right. I think that
Yeah.
even if you think that the smoking gun was released Thursday morning, it probably will drag on for a lengthy amount of time, I would guess.
Yeah. So then the other thing is what would a likely hammer look like? And the biggest thing you're hurting the Clippers with is by eliminating some first round picks. And we saw with the Joe Smith situation, the Wolves lost 5 first round picks, but they ended up restoring 2 of them. Me and Sam had a really interesting debate about which situation's worse, and uh he came to the conclusion that the Joe Smith circumvention was worse because the Wolves got a player they otherwise probably wouldn't have gotten, whereas the Clippers, they still could have signed Kawhi. They signed him to the max. They had the cap space to legally do it. Uh, I agree, but also felt like the actual circumvention that the Clippers did was worse, even if its impact, the result wasn't as bad as what the Wolves and Joe Smith did. Uh, so that's another thing you kind of have to weigh. But I would guess that all things considered, the league probably holds both kind of equal. So in which case, the hammer's probably a maximum of 3 first round picks. I kind of feel like even if there is a smoking gun, um, that it's gonna be like maybe at most a first round pick. It just feels like I don't know, like from Silver's remarks, it feels like he really just does not want to punish the Clippers. But what would that hammer be? Well, the Clippers have, uh, if it's 3 first round picks, it'd probably just be the soonest ones. That's what the NBA did with the Wolves back then. They have their soonest ones they have are 27, 29, 31. So if it is 3 first round picks, those are probably it. If the Clippers can't trade them, so they could trade their 31. So, if they were able to trade that one, then okay, it'll be the next later one. I'm sure if, if you're the Thunder, you might be feeling a little better about that extra pick you still have by the Clippers this year. I
Mm-hmm.
think the Sixers must be feeling pretty good about the having a Clippers pick in 2028. Um, the one interesting thing that Sam brought up though is like, well, they owe swaps in 27 and 29. I believe both to the Sixers, maybe, or no, the 27 I think to the Thunder still.
Yeah, 27's to OKC. Yeah.
How would there's if the NBA were to get rid of those, eliminate those picks from the Clippers, then those picks have protections on them. Like for the swap to convey, there's like very light, minimal protections. Maybe the Thunder and the Sixers might have some protests about how that is, because if you're taking away those picks, maybe you kind of now you're putting the Clippers in position. Maybe they could. I don't think they'd be like a top 5 worst team in the league, fall within the protected range. But there's kind of like a conflict of interest now with the teams that already have those outgoing swaps. So I don't know how that would be addressed. Like, I'm just sure that like if those picks get taken away, the Thunder and Sixers might just want to have a word with the league about how that might affect them. Just make sure that they could at least get that swap. Make sure they're not doing anything that puts the Clippers in a position where they make sure they keep the pick or something. I don't know. It's just something that I don't think the Wolves had any outgoing pick swaps back then. So that's just an interesting wrinkle to this.
Okay, last question for Yossi Explains It All. Could you explain how the rules around reaching the salary floor changed in the most recent CBA?
So, yeah, I guess it's one last part of OKC hour where there was the salary floor. It's 90% of the cap. Teams are obligated to reach that amount. In the previous CBA, all that would happen if you didn't reach the amount by the end of the season is that money, the owner doesn't get to pocket it. It gets redistributed back to their players who played on the team that year. Then and in 2021, I believe the Thunder did it. 2022, the Spurs did it. Or maybe I'm mixing the years around. But those two teams, they just like, oh, you know what? We carried over this cap space into the year. We couldn't do anything with it. We're happy to just pay give it back to our players. And I'm sure a lot of agents were not happy about that. That's like money that didn't go to other players. And the players pushed for a rule, more rules to prevent teams from rolling over so much money into the season. So what did they do? They implemented 2 things. One, you're going to want to get to the floor at the start of the season. They made it where you cannot really at all be under the floor during the season, which so you got to get whatever the difference is between the cap and the floor, that 10%, that's all you can roll over into the season. If you fail to get to the floor for whatever reason, you then lose out on whatever that amount is. So, like, let's say you're like 5% under the floor. Well, you're gonna automatically get bumped up to the floor in terms of cap space, so you don't get extra cap space. But then also you lose out on the luxury tax distribution. All that money that the taxpayers spend, uh, you don't get a piece of that free money. I might be missing out on another penalty, but those are the main ones. And those alone have stopped teams from staying below the salary floor. Right now, the Nets are below it. They'll get to it. They'll probably roll over that. It'll be like $15 million in cap space they could carry into the season. They'll probably do another salary dump or two to get to the floor.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll do some trivia. And we're back after that quick break. Now it's time for some terrifying CBA trivia that I am not ready for whatsoever.
Yeah, we're getting deep in the CBA this week on Andrew versus the Beat, our weekly trivia show where Andrew goes head to head against an NBA beat writer, or in this case, Yossi Gozlan. You can find him at the Third Apron. Hey, great name, Yossi, because I was Googling it. It is the first thing that shows up. That term is not used anywhere else, which is really great.
Yeah, we'll see if we get a Third Apron and the NBA
that would screw
ask me nicely to change it.
So how this works, I've come up with 8 questions that are about the salary cap in some way. Some are easy, some are hard. So you're going to give me a number between 1 and 8. It will correspond to a question. If you get it right, you'll get at least 2 points. If you get it wrong, Andrew will have a chance to steal for 1, and we'll go back and forth until all the questions have been asked and answered. So, Yossi, what number would you like to start with?
Wait, what are we picking between? Sorry.
1 through 8.
Let's do 8.
Question number 8. Rank these players by how many games they played after signing a contract during the cap spike summer of 2016. So, I'm going to name 4 players who received a contract in the summer of 2016, and you're going to rank them from most games played to fewest games played. Okay? Those players are Luol Deng, Alan Crabb, Jan Mahinmi, and Hassan Whiteside. Once again, that is Luol Deng, Alan Crabb, Jan Mahinmi, and Hassan Whiteside.
Wow.
So who's going first? Does it matter?
So you're just going to give me your ranking. And I won't tell you if each individual one is correct. I'll just tell you if all 4 were correct.
Okay. I believe Hassan Whiteside's number 1, Alan Crabb's number 2, and then it's about Deng or Mahinmi for 3 or 4. I feel like I know those guys basically only lasted a year after signing their respective contracts. I'm gonna say 3 Mahinmi, 4 Deng.
Yossi, you nailed it. That is correct.
Wow.
Oh, I freaked out my dog. She was so excited about your answer. Great. I just realized I lost my pen. Andrew.
Oh no.
Found it. I found it.
I didn't mean to bring so much excitement. I'm sorry, guys.
Wow. That was very impressive. Yeah. So actually, you doubted Jan Mahinmi. He did play 180 games post-contract.
Shout out.
Luol Deng only played 79 after he signed that 4-year deal. All right. Yeah. Andrew, board is yours.
Wow. Number 1.
Question number 1. Which player received the largest contract by total value during the cap spike summer of 2016? We obviously we remember all the fun contracts.
I know. I feel like this is a player that stayed with their team that summer, but I'm trying to remember who that was. Gosh. Who would that have been?
Are you thinking John Lure?
I'm thinking of the tackle box John Lure. That's the one I'm thinking of. Golly. This is not even a guy who stayed with his team.
I will say, I'll give you a hint.
He knows. Oh my gosh,
Can I give
he
hints?
knows.
No,
Yes,
why would you
I
give
think
a
yes,
hint?
I don't know.
absolutely.
I feel like giving him hints. If it is the player I believe it is, I believe it is related to a John Lure team.
Oh, Andrew, you have to get it now.
Oh my gosh.
If you don't get it now, I'm giving you negative points. You're going to get -2.
Oh no. I'm gonna get -2. I'm gonna get
No.
-2 ghost points because I just don't know that I know this. Like that was not the name that I was thinking of. Whenever you said that, I was not thinking of that
I can't believe it.
player.
I sent that hint to Yossi. It just came to my brain, and then we made a connection, and we're giving you the points, basically.
You're giving me the points.
And you're refusing to take
It's not Amari Stoudemire. That's the only name I can think of, but that's wrong. Gosh.
Are you giving up, Andrew?
Yeah.
Okay, Yossi, who was it?
I believe it was Mike Conley.
It was Mike Conley. 5
Dang
years,
it.
153 million, teammate of John Lure. All right, Yossi, you're up 3-zip. Even with the hint. That's really flexing, Andrew. When he gives you the hint, he still gets the point.
He's technically up 5.
Oh, yeah, I forgot I was giving you negative points. Okay, Yossi, board is yours.
Oh, I'm so mad.
Okay, let's go 2.
2, my favorite question. In 2011, the Spurs signed Matt Bonner to a contract with a unique clause. Bonner would get an extra $100,000 if his field goal percentage, free throw percentage, and three-point percentage added up to at least this number. Now, for this question, you get to choose who answers first. So you can make Andrew answer first, and then you go higher or lower, or you can answer first, and then Andrew would go higher or lower. So you just have to give me
Okay.
what that total percentage was that was in his clause.
Total percentage of what exactly again?
Field goal percentage, free throw percentage, three-point percentage. Added those up.
That's a weird criteria.
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
I'm gonna guess 50, 40, 90. What does that add up to?
54, that's 180.
180.
Okay, yeah, I'll just say 180.
Okay, so Yossi says 180%, Andrew. Would you have to go higher or lower?
Oh, Matt Bonner. He could shoot the rock. I know that.
Yeah.
I'll say higher.
It was 169%, which means
Was it?
Yossi gets both points.
It's a very nice provision there.
And, he didn't get it. He it was 157 at the end of the season, so unfortunately he did not get it.
Wow.
And Andrew, you are down 5-0. Technically 5, -2.
Technically 7, nothing. 3.
When Luke Ridnour signed a contract with Seattle in 2006, there was a clause that paid him an extra $1.5 million if he won what award? Now I'm going to name 4 NBA awards. You're going to tell me which one he was going to get an extra $1.5 million if he won it. MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player, Sixth Man of the Year.
Wow. What year was that?
That was 2006. All he had to do was win one of those awards, and he would get an extra $1.5 million. Which award was it?
MIP? Did you say MIP? Is
I
that
did
a
say
part of your
MIP.
list?
I did
Okay.
say MIP, Andrew, and that's wrong. Yossi, you have a chance to steal.
I'm gonna just guess the most wild one because I know like Jordan Poole has incentives for winning like MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. I'm gonna guess Defensive Player of the Year.
It was Defensive Player of the Year,
What?
Luke Ridnour. Oh, no. Andrew, you've never been beaten where the guest got every single point possible, but we are currently on track for that.
It's exciting.
Very exciting. Okay, Yossi, board is yours.
7.
Question number 7. After the 2011 lockout, who was the first player waived using the new amnesty clause?
Well, That might be tricky because, like,
Oh man.
I know there was like a lot of people saying, "Oh, this guy's gonna get amnesty. This guy's gonna get an amnesty." I guess maybe some got reported earlier, but happened later. So that's gonna be tricky. I know. I want to say it was either Gilbert Arenas, Chauncey Billups, uh, or I think I those are the I remember those two were like talked about pretty early. I'll just say Gilbert Arenas.
Yossi, you are still pitching a perfect game. That is
What?
correct. 8
No.
0. All
Technically
right, Andrew.
10. Technically
Technically
10.
10.
4,
Question number
please.
4. Now, Andrew, I have amazing news for you.
Uh-huh.
This question has 4 possible points. Okay?
Okay.
So you could
All
make
right.
a dent.
All right.
All right.
You could
Okay.
get to
I gotta
half.
focus.
of
I
what
gotta
Yossi
get my
has.
head back in the game. Okay.
Okay,
All right.
here we
Let's
go.
go.
Here we go. Since the 84-85 season,
This
only
is off to a bad start. Okay, go ahead.
only 4 players have been the highest paid player 5 different times in their career. How many can you name? So these are players that since that time, at least 5 different seasons, they were the highest paid player in the league, and there's 4 of them.
Michael Jordan?
No, sorry, Andrew. Andrew, you got to go look at his basketball reference page. It's fascinating.
Is
He
it?
he made over 30 million in 2 seasons. Every other season, he didn't make more than 5 million.
Wow. Well, all right.
I understand why you guessed it, and that's why I asked the question. Okay, Yossi, you have any guesses?
I could probably guess a few. No way I'll get this. I want to say one is Steph Curry.
Steph Curry is correct for 1 point.
I want to say another is Kevin Garnett.
Kevin Garnett is correct.
Yeah, because I know he got like obscene amounts of money early on.
This is like, okay, this is a great advertisement for the Third Apron Substack and podcast because this dude just knows everything. Keep going.
I don't think I'll get these last two. Because before before Curry got paid what he's making, I don't even remember who was the highest paid player then. Okay, was Kobe one?
Kobe was 1. Can you get the 4th and final name? I'm already counting it as a perfect game because you got the 2 normal points, but you could get all 4 points.
I want to say Shaq, but like I think he kind of conflicted with those Garnett years.
Mm.
I'll just say Shaq.
All right, that's the only one you missed. Got to go back to the 80s. It was Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing.
Never have guessed that.
Final name. Okay, 2 questions left. Yossi, you have a commanding 11-0 lead. You can have question 5 or question 6.
Technically 13.
5.
Okay, for this question, we're going to name the 10 franchises that have paid the most in luxury tax since the 2012 season. So how this works, Yossi will give me a name, then Andrew will give me a name. We'll go back and forth until one of you stumbles. Okay, so Yossi.
10 teams, the highest since 2012?
Yes, in luxury tax payments.
All right.
And you get to
Warriors?
start.
You went first?
Well, I guess we're starting with Andrew.
Okay.
Warriors is correct.
Clippers.
Yes.
Clippers, number 2. Andrew.
Since 2012. I really don't want to mess this up.
You're very confident with Warriors. You answered
I
out of
was.
turn.
It felt really good. Phoenix?
The Phoenix Suns, they're 5th on the list. Back to Yossi.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, number 3 on the list.
Wow.
Andrew.
Okay. I think the Thunder are on this list. The Thunder?
Andrew, number 9 on the list,
Yeah.
the Thunder. Shout out to Mello.
Shout out to Mello.
Back to
The
Yossi.
Bucks.
Stay mellow.
What'd you say?
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee Bucks. Yes, they are number 6 on the list. Back to Andrew.
Okay. It's 2012. Do we say Clippers already? Did we say that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's good. That's I just was checking to make sure you were counting. Philly?
Andrew, that is incorrect.
Wow, I was about to say them.
Really? What other
Interesting.
names were you thinking?
Sorry?
What other names were you thinking about?
I was between them and Boston next.
Yeah, Boston's on the list. They are 7. The number 4 team,
Okay.
Los Angeles Lakers, of course.
Lakers. Okay.
The Cavs come in at number 8.
Oh, that's right.
And the number 10 team, Minnesota Timberwolves.
Oh, interesting.
So
okay.
Yossi did get the points. Andrew, here's the good news. You get dibs on the final question, Andrew.
Yippee.
The Oklahoma City Thunder. Oh, this is a good start for you. Won the
It's a good start.
championship. Oh, congrats, Andrew. This
Yay.
season while not paying the luxury tax. Since the luxury tax was implemented in the 03-04 season, there have been 5 other champions to win without going into the tax. Name 2 of them. Now, you have
Oh
to
my
give me
gosh.
their championship year as well. Otherwise, you could just throw
have
out
to
a
give-
team name.
Okay.
Here we go. Can we get a point? Here we go.
Look at Yossi. He's like counting. He's counting the ones that he knows. This is so since 03.
Yeah, 03-04 season.
So I have to name the year that a team did it?
Yeah, of course.
Oh gosh. Al. San Antonio
What is the year?
in 14?
Folks, he prevented the shutout. He's on the board. Andrew got a point.
All
Now,
right.
Can you get a second point, Andrew?
Can I get a second point?
Cut the lead to 9.
Okay. Gosh. 03. So there's just not even that many teams.
Yeah, and the fact that there's already 6, including the Thunder.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I
That's
know.
a lot more than I would have thought. Did the Raptors pay it in 19?
They did, Andrew. I'm sorry
Okay.
about that, but you did
I
get a
don't know.
point. Yossi.
I know Lakers in 2020.
Yeah, Lakers in 2020. The bubble Lakers did
Oh,
not pay
wow.
the
I believe,
Weird.
and I believe, because I was like, they had cap space, so it's like hard to have cap space and go to the tax. And then I believe Warriors in 15 and 17.
So Warriors in 15, yes, and then Warriors in 18.
Oh.
Really?
Which honestly, looking at that doesn't seem right. How is that possible?
think it might be 17, but it's all right.
And then the other one,
Anyway.
yeah, you still got the point. The other one was the 06 Heat. 06 Heat.
That's
final
before my
score.
time.
I'm going to put this one up on
Ooh.
the screen. 14-1. Yossi, you may have just set the Slam and Jam Andrew versus the Beat record for most
It's been
points.
a long time since I've been stomped like that, you know. It's good.
Wow.
It's a good humbling moment and a great advertisement to go check out the Third Apron podcast. It's a great resource. If you think about like CBA stuff and you're like, I don't quite know this. It's a great podcast and it's a great Substack as a resource to NBA fans that just want to know more. And so I really enjoy listening to the podcast and it's very accessible. So please go check that out. Anything else that you'd like to promote before we get out of here, Yossi?
Thanks for the shout out, Andrew. Yeah, Third Apron newsletter on Substack, more like deeper salary cap analysis there. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky on my name. See all my salary cap information on capsheets.com. I believe that's everything.
Wonderful. Thank you, Yossi. And thank you guys for listening. We are continuing our season preview pods. We're actually going to drop those down to just one team per episode. And we're going to go 5 days a week, really until the season starts. So look forward to all of those. We're going to get a beat writer for every single team to come on to discuss the team that they cover. We'll have continued coverage of this Clippers saga via podcast. So if you want more of that, that's coming at you next week as well. I'm trying to think of anything else. If you're not listening to Pablo Torre Finds Out, which I'm sure that most of you are, you should go listen to it. It's a great podcast. It's now a part of the Athletic Podcast Network. And then be sure, as I mentioned earlier, to go listen to the podcast with Dave and Pablo and Amick on his reporting as well. So please go do that. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you guys again in 2 weeks.